Um, okay, cool. So this is Climbing the Corporate Ladder, and we have Shivani from Elevate. And Elevate offers customized services across a range of industries like healthcare and finance and tech. And in ProDev, we want to kind of focus. I mean, so it's important to help you get your job and to ace the interview and do all of that. But ProDev is more than that. It's also learning how to excel at a job and excel at the career that you worked so hard to get at. So this is why we have Shivani to talk to us about how to climb the corporate ladder. So
Awesome.
I will let you.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me back here today. I'm super excited to talk about climbing the corporate ladder. This is actually a personal favorite topic of mine just because it embodies professional growth and development, and that is what I'm all about. So before we dive in, a quick agenda that I just wanted to run through. Please just make sure that you sign in. Anyone that reaches out to me afterwards, I just like to know where you guys are coming from. And most importantly, I also like to see kind of attendance and tracking attendance as well, to see kind of is the content that I'm delivering helpful for you guys or not. I will also run through an introduction of who I am, what I even do in case. Sorry. I'll just run through an introduction in case you guys weren't able to make the last meeting. And then we'll chat a little bit about the topic of climbing the corporate ladder and then answer any questions. So who is BrickSource? So BrickSource is obviously the name of the company that I work for. The Elevate program is within BrickSource. So our company is actually one of the top 20 IT consulting firms in the US. And we work with a variety of Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies all throughout the nation. I specifically hire within Arizona. So a few of our Fortune 100 partners are like American Airlines, Banner Health, even the state of Arizona, and so forth. But we really help them when we specialize with the Elevate program because we help students who have 0 to 3 years of professional experience get into the workforce with these Fortune 100 companies. Within the Elevate program, we also design a specific training curriculum for you guys to work through. In addition to, I work with you guys through professional growth and development to make sure that you're setting yourself up for long-term success. So Elevate in itself, it's completely free, whether you are just looking to get some tips and tricks or you're actively looking for an opportunity. It's completely free to everyone who'd like to utilize it. But the way that I work with a variety of students is through like coaching and mentorship with like resume reviews and LinkedIn reviews. I also, again, do all of the hiring when it comes to junior level talent within BrickSource Arizona. And then as far as the Elevate program goes, there's the ongoing performance management with the technical training, the professional growth and development, just making sure that you're setting yourself up for that long-term success. So I am the program manager of Elevate. I did design this program a couple of years ago out here in Phoenix. So I'm definitely in the weeds when it comes to working with students, whether it's through universities, boot camps, other organizations. But the goal is to educate myself as to what you guys are learning within academia and take that to educate our clients so that they have realistic expectations of what a junior level candidate knows. So again, if you guys are interested in setting up like a one-on-one, feel free to shoot me an email. I'm always happy to chat with you guys further. But without further ado, let's dive in. So climbing the corporate ladder. I feel like a lot of people kind of have that misconception of like, all right, within the first month, here are the things that I need to do. But it actually starts before you even walk in the door. I'm not sure if you guys remember too much about us talking about building your brand a little bit and really focusing on like what makes you unique, but you're building your brand before you even walk in the door in that company. So making sure that you have that streamlined communication with whomever you're working with prior. There's nothing worse than, them sending you communication saying come at 9 and you didn't see it, you show up at 9:30. And so making sure that you have that streamlined communication shows that you're organized, you're detail oriented. And even sending that thank you note to the recruiter or whoever that you worked with to get that position. Either I say like do it prior, once you kind of have the offer and things start going, or do it at least within the first week of your employment. reason behind that is because let's say 3 months down the road, you're like, oh yikes, I don't like this job. You could always reach out to that recruiter and say, hey, like, thank you so much for this opportunity. I was wondering, are you hiring for any other positions within this company? And in itself, you're building out a solid network for yourself too. So at the end of the day, it's super professional, but it's also really appreciated because that recruiter did kind of go above and beyond to set that experience for you and help you get, you know, first job out of school or that internship. And then most importantly, research. So a lot of times folks are like, all right, I got the job, cool, I'll learn everything once I join the company. But it's actually really important to learn about the company even further prior to walking in the door, because that way, you know, in the first week, you're going to meet a bunch of people. And so if you can talk in an educated manner, talk on like the tools that they're using, the software, and educate yourself ahead of time, you come in definitely more competitive to the other junior level candidate who may have not put that extra research or extra effort for. So day one, you walk in the door. First impressions are lasting impressions. So a couple of goals that I would suggest you guys focus on when it comes to setting yourself up for that long-term success is meet as many people as possible. Day one, it will be overwhelming. You'll be doing lots of things and trying to figure out what is this job. But it's important to make sure that you're introducing yourself to as many people within your team, the department, the organization, because at the end of the day, again, these are people who down the road could be your future manager, or could be someone that provides that promotion for you, or someone who vouches for you when it comes to like salary increases or annual reviews. So it's always important to try to meet as many people as you can. If it's not day one, target that for week one. This sounds silly, but setting up a professional signature. So when you first start, you're going to be in communication with so many people because you're a new person. So you'll be interfacing with business, maybe finance, HR, but you'll be in communication with a lot of people. And so from a communication standpoint, all you'll basically have is email at that point. So you want to make sure from an email standpoint, you're still set up in a professional manner. And then setting your first week goals, first month, 3 month, and 6 month goals. I know it's a little ambitious to say set this in day one. Again, you can target this for week one, but within your first week, I would say reach out to your manager to say, hey, I would love to set up a one-on-one to start to really figure out what I need to do and what I need to learn to be successful within my first month in this role. And then within the first month, setting that 3 month and 6 month goal with your manager. I would say do not leave it to your manager to setting that one-on-one with you. Take the initiative yourself, because it shows that you have that ambition and that drive to grow and succeed day one in the company. So it is really impressive when you reach out to managers. They also really appreciate it because, you know, they're overseeing 12, 15 people. And so it might kind of go over their head of like, oh my gosh, I need to schedule a one-on-one. So take that under your own wing to make sure that you're setting yourself up for that growth, because at the end of the day, your growth and your success is in your hands, no one else's. Awesome. So leaving a lasting impression. So I kind of narrowed it down to these main topics to focus on when it comes to making that lasting impression, so that maybe 6 months down the road, you're already working into a leadership opportunity, or you're working into maybe a level 2 or level 3 if you started at level 1. So the things that I really like to harp on is professional etiquette, communication, networking, mentorship, and then going above and beyond. So the first one of professional etiquette, obviously you want to be viewed as a talented, hardworking, ethical professional. Make sure, I know it's really easy, especially like working remote and things like that, but you know, you're on your computer and you get bored after a few hours and then you hop on Facebook. That is not what you should be doing on your work computer. It's not what you should be doing during your work hours in general. With these companies, they can track your searching. So they know if you're looking for other jobs, if you've just been on Amazon all day, like they can see what you're doing. So just be cognizant of that. You need to make sure that you're focusing on your attitude and your effort. If managers kind of give you a work, or if your team's like, hey, can you do this? And you're like, I guess, Like to them, that shows that you're not someone who's a go-getter. You're not someone who, will go above and beyond. And they're looking for those enthusiastic people because that embodies leadership. So focusing on your attitude, and then absences, tardiness, this kind of goes across the board. But I typically say within the first 90 days of your employment, don't take sick days, don't take vacation days, do not get late. And if anything, work a little longer. Reason behind that is usually the first 90 days within a corporate company is called the probation period. So it's almost like a trial period. And that's where a lot of managers within the first 90 days, they know, is this going to work out or do we need to let this person go? So it's going to be really crucial to focus on these things, especially the first 90 days, but obviously, every day is an interview at the job. I always say, like it'll become comfortable, but never get too comfortable. And then, I throw this in there, harassment towards coworkers, because it happens and it's terrible. By making sure that, not everyone understands sarcasm. Not everyone has the same sense of humor. And so making sure that you're also cognizant of the people that you're talking to, and that, you're respectful of the people around you. Sleeping on the job. I had to fire someone because he kept sleeping at his desk. And I bought him a Starbucks gift card and I was like, wake up, dude, like drink some coffee, we'll figure it out. And still, I guess coffee put him to sleep. And so it happens. I know it's silly, but sleeping on the job, it happens. And that is something that obviously managers would not appreciate. Poor hygiene and inappropriate work attire. I think it's especially within kind of engineering or IT, like it's pretty casual, but it's important to know that, hey, like maybe today you just work with your team, but you never know. What if the CIO of the company is flying in that day and is making rounds around the office and you're wearing a t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops? You want to make sure that you're making that lasting impression. And so every day, make sure that you dress to impress. Again, try not to get too comfortable. I throw this one in here. I'm not too concerned with you guys for this bullet point, but drinking, happy hours, stuff like that, like going out to lunch and coming back to work, inebriated is not what you want to do. Again, I make this list because these are all of the red flags of things that I've had to fire people for that you think were common sense. So it is a thing, I promise. But just make sure at the end of the day, like, yes, you might be out to lunch, but you're still going back to work. And at the end of the day, it's coworkers, it's still work, no matter how comfortable you get. Software, people like install things all the time. Just make sure if there is anything that you want on your computer, you're getting everything approved. Don't steal stuff from the company. I don't see why anyone would, but it is a thing. People, will steal hardware, especially if someone is let go from a job. Like, just make sure you're not burning bridges in that manner. And then hours worked. So this is something that typically a lot of people don't necessarily think about, especially if they're salaried. But depending on the company that you work for, like if you're within government, you report hours and you're salaried. And so making sure that you're always honest about it, because at the end of the day, like you will get busted if you report incorrect number of hours, and it is something that is a fireable offense. So these are all big no-nos. Do not do any of these listed. Just make sure that you're cognizant of your professional etiquette and how you're presenting yourself within the role. So communication, know your atmosphere. Obviously, you're going to communicate with your teammates differently than you would with a manager or a VP. So just be aware of who you're talking to. Sometimes, I would say majority of the time, VPs, you don't even know that they're vice presidents of the company because they're super chill, but they are still higher ups. And so I would say still have that level of respect in your communication, be aware of who you're communicating with, and effectiveness in being concise. I can't tell you how many times people will send me like 5-paragraph emails and I'm like, I don't want to read this. And so that's across the board for a lot of people. At the end of the day, we're really busy. And so make sure that your emails are effective and concise, where, it's at most a paragraph, you bullet point what needs to be focused on, you bold what needs to be focused on, but don't write 5 paragraphs for something that can be consolidated into one. And when it comes to emails, I feel like typically, and I'm guilty of this as well, but responding to emails within a 24-hour time frame, especially when you're newer in the role, even if it's something that you don't need to respond to, always do so within 24 hours of just saying, got it, thanks. Because at the end of the day, this other person at the other side of the computer, they don't know if you've read it, they don't know if you're aware of what's going on. And so just making sure that you are confirming that you've got the email and you're following up within 24, at most 48 hours, just because at the end of the day, it's kind, it's courteous. And when it comes to urgency, then they'll know, hey, this person replies to me within 24 hours. If something goes wrong, I actually want to reach out to that person. And you want to be that person that they're thinking of, that if something goes wrong, you'll be there available for them. So keep in mind, I know something as small as responding to an email immediately, it sounds small, but it'll also build kind of that reputation for yourself of like, hey, you're the go-to person. So networking, this is a common question that I get, and everyone's like, how do I even network? And so I say, no matter what event you go to, no matter what company you interview with, whoever you meet, always stay in contact with them. Whether it's even an interview and maybe you didn't get that opportunity, but stay in contact with those people because they're people that you can reach out to down the road. But especially, as I mentioned, meet as many people as you can day one. You know, where you start, you know, you probably start as an associate or junior level in whichever position you choose to start in, but do you want to stay in that junior level position 5 years from now? Probably not. And so at the end of the day, you can be the most technical person, you can be super witty and smart, but if you don't know the right people, mobility is going to be really hard within a company. Unfortunately, it's not always about, you know, do you check every box when it comes to being a tech genius? It's more so who do you know and what connections have you built to exemplify or kind of portray your skill set across the board, because the more people that know everything that you've done and everything that you're capable of, the more people you have to vouch for you when it comes to opportunities. And then networking outside of your organization. So let's say you interview for a specific team. Obviously, you're going to learn about people that are in that team, whether it's local or at a different hub out of state. But I think it's important to network with other people outside of your organization to understand, what does the business side do? You know, what do the PMs do? Because the more that you can learn about what they do in their role, the more you'll figure out what you enjoy doing, but also the more that you'll understand the business as a whole, which will help you excel in your role. The more aware that you are of how the company runs and functions, the more competitive you are, because you're basically a walking knowledge base saying, yes, this is what this team does, this team and this team. And again, you'll become that go-to resource. So mentors. I think it is an awesome thing that week one, you get a mentor. There is honestly not a number of mentors to have. You can have one, you can have 40, it doesn't matter, just as long as your mentors are catering to your needs. So when it comes to a mentor, it can be someone within your team, the department, the company, or someone that's even outside of the company, or just anyone that's in the role that you're interested in. So let's say, you know, you are a junior mechanical engineer, but you want to work into a program management role. Maybe there is someone in the company or within your team that you can chat with, or there's maybe someone at a different company that you're like, I like what that company does a lot more, and I like their role a little more. And so you can connect with them on LinkedIn, but every company also has a directory that you can even find people on and learn a little bit more about kind of what their place is. So I always say it's easy to find a mentor on your team, and that's going to happen naturally. They'll probably assign you a mentor and just say, here, learn everything from this person. So that's going to be an easy box to check. But I would say always have about 3 to 4 mentors in your back pocket, because everyone will cater to a different need of yours. Everyone has different experience, and so they'll be able to educate you on kind of their career path. And at the end of the day, you can take little bits and pieces from each person, put it together, and kind of create an experience for yourself. And then lastly, being a mentor. So this is something that a lot of junior candidates typically overlook because they're like, I just graduated, I don't know anything. but clearly you got hired for the position because you know a lot. And so at the end of the day, you know, I'll be honest, like there are some old dogs that can't learn new tricks in these jobs, and that's why they're hiring junior level candidates, folks who have a little more experience and grew up around technology that are really weeded within. And so you do bring a lot to the table, and there's a lot that you can even educate these older folks on too. And so I would say take every opportunity to be a teacher, be a mentor to someone. I know it can be daunting to mentor someone who is double your age, but at the end of the day, it just shows that you have those leadership skills and that you're able to teach someone and walk someone through something, because that's how you work further up. People get promotions because they support other people and they don't think of I, they think of we. And so you grow as a team, you don't grow necessarily as solely just an individual. So I would say take any and every opportunity to be a mentor, even if it's outside of your team. So going above and beyond. It sounds kind of scary to just be that person that is always that go-to person. It sounds like it'll be a lot, but I promise you, especially within your first career, that first year is going to be really crucial for setting the groundwork for your success within the next 2 to 3 years afterwards. So at the end of the day, you know, anyone can clock in, clock out, do the job. That's cool, but that's expected of you. That is what you were hired to do. And so if you exceed those expectations of, you know, again, mentoring someone or acquiring more leadership opportunities, you're going above and beyond what you were hired for. And at the end of the day, that is what managers notice you for. That's what people get promoted for, is going above and beyond. So it might be uncomfortable, especially, you know, if you're a little quieter, or if you're just like, you know what, I'll do heads down, just get my work done. So you might need to challenge yourself in your comfort zone a little bit, but I would say if they give you an opportunity to volunteer for something, whether it's taking on a project or being a part of something, always raise your hand, because at the end of the day, you get exposure, you get educated in a new manner, and it shows that you are someone who's reliable. You can be that go-to person. I would say leading meetings, so it doesn't happen within the first month because you're still learning, but usually by month 3, you have a pretty good grasp as to, you know, different softwares, tools that the company is using. So take an opportunity to ask your manager and say, hey, would it be okay if I kind of led this? Or if that's not really how the structure of the company or the team works, you can even put together something that you think would be crucial for your team and present on it. Like, for example, what I did within my role is there wasn't a lot of training curriculum on biases and unconscious biases, especially when it comes to hiring candidates. And so at the end of the day, that's not part of my job description, but that's something that I thought would be crucial for different program managers, recruiters, and leaders to understand when it comes to hiring processes. And so that was something that I did outside of my day-to-day. I did it under my own volition, but once I kind of built that out, I just asked my manager, is this something that I can present to the department? And obviously managers always want to support you. That's what they're there for. And so it always just shows that you're kind of taking that extra step to go above and beyond. And then voicing opinions. So again, the reason that you were hired is because you brought a new, fresh idea to the table and the manager liked it. And so it's always important to vocalize if you think that there's a more efficient way to tackle something, or maybe you think a process is dated, talk about it. At the end of the day, even if it's not correct, at least you're educated on that. And then becoming an expert in the industry. So as I said, doing your research ahead of time, doing continuous research while you're in the role. Definitely follow the company that you work for, follow them on LinkedIn. Because they'll also continue to post different articles on what they're doing to stay ahead of the curve or innovative. Even if it doesn't interface with your team or your department directly, at least you'll get an understanding of, hey, this is actually pretty cool that my company does this. It gives you another talking point, especially if you're interviewing for a different job within the company. And then again, the more people that you meet, the more people you introduce yourself within different departments and organizations, the better you'll be able to understand the industry. And then staying late when needed. So this is a little taboo because some people are like, listen, I'm being paid for 40 hours a week. And I get that. But at the end of the day, it's going to be that go-getter mentality. Are you hungry to learn? Are you motivated? And especially within the first like 90 to 180 days, that's when it's going to be really crucial to show like, yes, I'll stay because I'm passionate about this work. It shows that you're passionate, and when there's passion, that shows grit, and grit is the key to success. So I would say, I know it's a bummer to sometimes stay late in roles, but it is something that will exemplify that you are a go-getter. You know, you have that fire under you, you have that passion, and you're ready to go. And then, as I mentioned, additional tasks. So typically when it comes to companies, they're called like stretch assignments, but stretch assignments are essentially just something that is outside of your day-to-day. So that could be like I mentioned, creating a presentation over something that you're passionate about that you'd love to share with people, or you know, maybe the company uses like a dated payroll system and you're a developer in finance. And so kind of looking into things like that, but it's not going to be something that's handed to you. It's going to be something that you're going to need to seek out. But again, managers love this. A little story, there was someone that I hired at American Airlines who he actually was in the payroll finance team, and he was a developer. And he did notice something, a discrepancy within the payroll system, and he actually built out a separate application. No one told him anything, he just noticed it. And, you know, he was under a 6-month contract to hire. And after 6 months, he was a fresh graduate. After 6 months of converting to a full-time employee, they converted him to 98K. Everyone else in the company has not been converted at junior level at that amount. And so imagine being 6 months out of school and making basically 6 figures. It is insane. But he went above and beyond. He showed to the managers, like, he's really passionate about this. He took something that he was interested in, presented it, and now they're implementing it at American Airlines. That's how awesome it was. So you never know kind of the work that you put forward and kind of the effort that you put forward, how far it can go. And plus you can make a lot of money. So some examples of things that you guys can do to really set yourself apart. These are just a couple of ideas, but you can like host a team event, whether it's like a team happy hour, you can be the social person on the team, or if it's an event around like volunteering. But it just shows that you have that organization and engagement piece down, connecting with leaders on LinkedIn. Even if you've never met them, that's okay. You're still getting your name out there, and directors can still see like, oh, hey, this person works at my company. Like, that's cool. And you can even send them a message and say like, hey, I know it's virtual, like, but I was interested in kind of learning a little bit more about our organization. Would love to like virtually grab a coffee with you. I can't tell you how impressive that is to directors. I've had I secretly tell my contractors to do that with some of the directors within the organizations, and the directors will message me directly and be like, you'll never guess what happened. And I was like, I kind of can guess, but tell me. And they're always so excited, and they're like, this is impressive. This is what we look for when it comes to a leader, is the person who's reaching out, looking to understand our company and our organization better. Taking the opportunity to teach someone something, so that kind of falls into mentorship. Again, it doesn't matter if you're a junior level candidate and you need to teach someone in a senior level role something, because you are fresh out of school. And so things are a little bit fresher in your mind, and it might not be as fresh for them. And so you can still come in the door and bring a lot to the table. Networking events within the company. So they're typically called business resource groups or resource groups. They have a variety of different names within different companies, but they're basically clubs for companies. And so I would say getting involved in those, you'll also get to meet a variety of different people. You'll get the opportunity to hear guest speakers, or even if you join the board of one of those, you can be a speaker. And that way you're getting your name out there. I remember, prior to my role here, I worked at a different company and I was involved in a variety of different boards. And I had people that would send me an email and say, hey, I loved your presentation. And I was like, who are you? But at the end of the day, it's pretty cool because people will start to recognize you. And again, the more recognition that you kind of build around your name, the more opportunities and the larger the pathway that you're building for yourself down the road. Again, setting up a goals meeting with a manager. I can't tell you how much they love it. You take something off of their plate for them too, and the less work that they have to do, the more they appreciate it as well. But it shows that you're taking your own growth into account, and it shows that you, again, are really ambitious to make sure that you set yourself up for long-term success. And then stretch assignments. So I just mentioned that. I personally think stretch assignments, that's what really sets you up for success, in addition to basically everything else that I mentioned. But stretch assignments, it's similar to, you know, before you even start a job, those managers love to see those extra projects that you work on outside of school. It's going to be the same thing as when you're in the corporate world, is what are you doing that's extra, that's not just your day-to-day. And so definitely focus on seeing, you know, whether it's your internship or a job, it's going to be important to just make sure that you're kind of going a little bit, taking that extra step to maybe research a little bit more about the software or the program that you're using. Whatever it is, managers always appreciate you guys doing a little bit extra. That being said, do not sacrifice your day-to-day of what you're supposed to be doing for things that you're just passionate about. You still need to get your day-to-day work done. So when it comes to the Elevate program, because I actually work with everyone through professional growth and development, I actually built out this little accelerator too. And so I cannot rave enough about how important professional growth and development is. And that's why I usually work through this within the first 6 to 12 months of someone starting on a job, because that is your critical period. It's kind of setting the scene for your long-term success. So I work through this accelerator with all of the folks that go through the program, and that's outside of the supplemental training that we do. But at the end of the day, like, if you guys have any questions when it comes to professional growth and development, definitely let me know, because I cannot emphasize enough, like, you setting yourself up for success starts before you even walk in the door. So, any questions? I know that's a lot of information and I talk very fast.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I currently just onboarded to a new internship this week, and it's my first week. And you mentioned doing a thank you letter. I have not done that yet, but I'm wondering if I can get insight on who I should give the thank you letter to. So my manager was the one that gave me the first interview, and I'm working with him right now with the onboarding process, and he's like showing me my team, my buddy system. I'm wondering, would he be the person I give the thank you letter to, or is it the person who called me the week after the interview and said, you got the job, here's the offer letter? Because I feel like I have more of a relationship with my manager than I have with the recruiter.
Yeah, so when it comes to the person who kind of coordinated and extended the offer, did they initially reach out to you when it comes to the opportunity and kind of set up the interview and kind of got you all set up for that internship?
My manager?
Yeah, like, who was that person that was involved in all of that?
The department manager.
Okay. So I would actually send, like, Friday end of day. The way that I would frame that is if the manager, because usually it's kind of the recruiter or someone within HR that's a little more involved, but if it was the manager that did the outreach and interviewed you and kind of put you through the full process of the onboarding and paperwork, then Friday end of day, I would draft an email and say, you know, I had a great first week. Here's everything that I learned and accomplished. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm super excited to see kind of how the next few months goes, or however long the internship is for. I would send that to your manager, because I promise you it'll put a smile on their face, but they'll also be appreciative that you're tying it to great first week. Here's what I accomplished. And so it's not just an awkward, like, thank you, see you Monday.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question. So I'm curious if you have any advice on dressing professionally without breaking the bank.
Yeah. So I would say when it comes to dressing professional, I think like Ross is super awesome. It's super affordable. They have a lot of dress clothes. Typically the way that you can do it, like I've seen people just wear like regular t-shirts. It can even be like a Star Wars t-shirt or a Harry Potter one. I'm guilty of the Harry Potter one. And then I tuck it into my slacks. You throw a cardigan on it, boom, it's professional. And so at the end of the day, I would say like most settings are not like you need to wear a blazer or suit and tie. That's typically not most settings nowadays. And so as long as you are, I would say like 70% business, 30% casual, that's appropriate. I'm very guilty. I don't like to shop. And so I don't know too many stores as far as not breaking the bank, but there are a variety. I know that there are different resources, especially for women who are trying to get into the workforce, where there are people that even donate dress clothes. And so I can definitely take a look into that organization and relay that back to you. I don't remember the name, but I would say Ross is definitely a great go-to place if you're looking for like super affordable dress clothes. Otherwise, honestly, getting like 2 pairs of slacks. I definitely encourage just a pair of black slacks, and you can tuck in a t-shirt or a tank top. And if you have a blazer or cardigan, it's super easy. But at the end of the day, most managers don't expect you to wear like a blazer or heels or things like that to work. At least I hope not.
Okay, awesome. I have one more question, which is, how do you know if you're in a company that will, you know, like there's room for growth, I guess?
Yeah, so that's something that I typically say, like, for research ahead of time, that's going to be important. I personally say if you don't know that there's opportunities for growth, don't accept that offer yet. That's a question that you should definitely ask a manager. And also, it's a hit or miss with reviews online because it's either the really hyped people or the really pissed people. And so take it with a grain of salt. But typically, a lot of companies, if they have 200 some reviews, there is a mix of some unbiased opinions in there saying, hey, like, absolutely love the culture, absolutely love the opportunity for growth. But that's also something that you can inquire in the interview stages with the recruiter or the hiring manager. I do think that is an important question to ask in every single interview, because again, you don't want to hop into something and just be stagnant for the next 3 years. You want to continue to kind of move up the ladder.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. How do you recommend like dealing with a manager who's, maybe bossy or a bit overbearing, or, who doesn't make your life work particularly pleasant?
Yeah. So I always say setting up a one-on-one is crucial. At the end of the day, a lot of times like management doesn't, they have a lot of stuff going on. Sometimes they're stressed and they don't understand the impact that they have. And so I always say communication is huge, because sometimes just one conversation can resolve an issue. And so setting up a one-on-one with that manager and just saying, hey, like, I really enjoy my time here. I'm learning so much. I was just curious to get your feedback. Because maybe there is something that's going on that your manager is just like, I find it so irksome. Like, why aren't they getting this done? But maybe they don't know how to communicate that. And so just opening that dialogue for open communication and addressing any issues is going to be really important. I know it can be daunting with a manager too, because it's like, I don't want to get fired. But at the end of the day, they can't fire you for having a conversation of trying to understand why there is a disconnect. And sometimes managers don't know how everyone learns. Everyone learns at a different rate, a different pace. And so sometimes you need to teach them on how to teach you. And most people really appreciate it, where it's like, hey, here's how I best learn. Do you mind kind of educating me on like how you think I best learn, or like how I can really understand this concept? Because I feel like there is something going on here where maybe I wouldn't use the word overbearing with them. They'd be like, oh gosh, but more so of, hey, like, do you not trust me? Because I really want to make sure that I'm having a long-lasting impact, but I want to make sure that we have that foundation of trust so that I can continue to do my work and make sure that you're confident in me. So it's all about how you frame it. But I think it's really important to teach them on how to teach you. Yeah. What else? You guys are ready?
Another
You're gonna be leaders? Yeah.
Sorry. So you talked about, I think it was like, I'm looking at my notes really quick. I think it's like stretch assignments. Can you talk a little bit more about that again? We kind of breezed over it.
Yeah, so stretch assignments are basically any project that you do outside of your day-to-day role. So let's say you are hired to be an aerospace engineer. You have the job description. They said, here's what you're going to be doing day to day. That's awesome. But what can you do outside of your day-to-day tasks that either will tie to your work or will tie to process improvement? And so maybe it's something that is tied to the business side that you're interfacing with, or the clients that you talk to, or even when it comes to budgeting for parts. So taking kind of whatever your role is and going beyond that. So kind of the example that I gave was building out that that presentation for my region on biases and trying to make sure that, you know, when it comes to hiring different people, that there is that unconscious bias of how do you review a resume without kind of thinking, okay, like there's that buzzword, or female versus male, you know, degree, things like that. And so that was something that's out of my day-to-day role that I did not need to do. It's something that I'm passionate about that I think ties into the industry or ties into my region. And so that's an example of a stretch assignment. Another one is that guy that I was mentioning at American Airlines, working within the payroll and finance team. He's a software engineer. And he kind of noticed that their system was a little dated, and he basically built something out to make it a more efficient program for them to use, and now they implemented it within the company, but that was not part of his day-to-day. He was a UI developer. And so that was not something that he needed to do. All he needed to do is make the system look pretty. But he dove into the back end actually to make this process smoother for them. Okay. So that is basically a stretch assignment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that does.
Okay, cool. What else?
Okay, I have another question. I guess where would you draw the line between like wanting to do really well at work, but then also being able to balance like your personal life? Because a lot of these, you know, like staying after, staying late, working on stretch assignments, like I can see that infringing possibly on your personal life. So I'm curious, like, where do you think it's good to draw the line?
Yeah, so I think, you know, I'm one of those people where I don't live to work, I work to live kind of thing. And so, yeah, I'll work late sometimes. And I think it's important to understand, like, what are you passionate about? Obviously there has to be a work-life balance. If your work is consuming, you know, 70 hours of your week, that's absolutely outrageous. Like, you know, nobody needs to do that, because I do like to say, yes, work a little bit late. That doesn't mean work 12 hours a day. That means more so maybe one day you stay a little bit later for an hour, and then a couple days later you stay another hour. It doesn't have to be like, you know, you burn yourself out, because at the end of the day, if you are a workhorse and you're doing 10-hour days, you're going to burn out, and that's not good for you, and that's not good for your team either. And so it's kind of figuring out that balance. And in the beginning, it'll be a little overwhelming, because you'll try to figure out, like, do I need to stay late? Do I need to do this? At the end of the day, the work will always be there the next day. But I think kind of putting in maybe that extra 30 minutes, that extra hour every couple of days will show that you're still there trying to understand and learn and still getting the work done. So I would never say like sacrifice your personal life for work. But there are going to be times where, depending on the industry or the environment you're in, there's going to be critical times where maybe a system shuts down, or, you know, they need all hands on deck. And so being that person that's not like, I have to be all hands on deck, like I don't want to do this, but more so of that person of like, yep, I'm here for it. Tell me what I need to do. Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. What else? questions? If you guys are shy too, you can pop it in the chat. You guys can also email me questions. If you guys also even want to set up like a one-on-one, you can definitely do so. I love to chat about stuff like this just because, you know, I feel like it's typically overseen that most people are just like, just get me in the door and that's all I care about. And once they're in the door, they're like, all right, cool, like I'm here now. But you know, your growth never stops there. You're continuing to grow. Even if, you know, you're 10 years into your career, you're still looking to grow in that role because at the end of the day, you're not going to learn everything at once. You're going to continue to learn and continue to evolve into your career. So if you guys do want to set up a one-on-one, chat a little bit further, feel free to do so. Just let me know kind of in that email that you were at this presentation, just so I know who you are. But yeah, if you guys need a LinkedIn resume review, anything like that, let me know. But definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to kind of read a little bit about your guys' background too and see how I can help. I also post things here and there when it comes to different resources for maybe like technical trainings, interviews, workshops, things like that. I know we wrapped up a little early here, but any other questions? Crickets. All right.
Thank
Awesome.
you, Shivani.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in and your time.
Yeah,
It was pretty
definitely.
insightful. Thanks.
Definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for having me again. I hope this was helpful, but have a good night.
Thank you.
See ya.